That is the time for fine tailored suits featuring Glenn Suitor, brought to you by Quality Tire. 10 locations across Saskatchewan. QualityTire.ca. Suits, what's going on?
DT, how are you today? I think I feel like everyone else is feeling right now. I know we're going to get into it, but yeah.
Frustrated, rage, like running into the woods so you can punch dance out your rage? Like, what are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm looking at it from sort of, how do you do right by people? And you do right by people in this scenario right now, not in normal times, not in times when we're not fighting this crisis and this COVID situation. But right now, the way you do right by people is communicating with them. Simple as that. And that doesn't mean hard and fast. That doesn't mean exact dates. As Luke mentioned just a few minutes ago, it doesn't mean you have to announce this is the day, because that's still unknown and there's still uncertainty. But right now, you do right by people by communicating, and that's not happening.
What's the question that lingers with me is, what's the downside to communicating? Why isn't there, like Luke said, hey, once a month, why aren't they just batting ideas back and forth, telling them what they can tell them? What's the downside? Why wouldn't you do that? And I don't come up with a real big answer other than, well, someone might leak out something that we wanted to keep quiet, but then I don't know if I believe that's a thing. I don't know what the downside is to the CFL to do this and why they don't.
Well, I think in normal times, and I'm not specifically talking about this group in the league office right now, but I've, throughout the last 15, 20 years, I would say the reason for it is that they want to have all the facts right, want to be sure in exactly what they're saying, want to be able to present, united, right? And that includes all the governors and everybody else, the owners. So, there's been this tendency in normal times to make sure you've got everything lined up properly, all the T's crossed and the I's dotted before you make an announcement of any kind. Well, this is not normal times. This is crisis management. The ecosystem of football in our country is at stake, plus much, much more. Mm-hmm. And communication in uncertain times is true leadership. And we're not seeing it right now. And it is frustrating. And I don't blame some of the players at this point. I mean, I'm even talking when you're 2 months out now, we should be seeing weekly reports from the league office, because, the bottom line is that the stakeholders need to know scenario A, B, and C. And let's say even scenario D, which is another canceled season, which nobody wants and nobody's saying is even, I think everybody in every report right now is that we're going to play at some time.
Yeah.
But if you give us A, B, and C, and even D being another canceled season, and say it's got to be flexible, these aren't hard dates, but these are the three options that are possible. That's what the stakeholders want to hear. And what they could be saying right now is, A, we are playing with medical approval and border approval. Okay, so that's something that they can say right now, that it doesn't lock you into anything. It just says, as long as the medical professionals say we can play, we're going to play. But it does take away part of the speculation game, which is, do they really want to play? Are they going to invest the money? How much is going to cost? All the other rabbit holes people go down, or wormholes, or whatever you want to call them. They, medical and border approval. Mm-hmm. Then the next thing they can say right now, because they have to have done the math and the economics on it, we can play 1 game, 2 games, 4 games with no fans in the stands. We've looked at the numbers. We can do that. So that's another thing that they could be firm on right now. We will update everyone on a weekly basis. So you basically are saying to your fans, to your show, certainly to the players. I mean, that should be happening every couple of days. For sure, every week. They can do that. And the owners could come out united and say, we are committed to playing with medical approval. So the speculation game can be put aside. And here's the bottom line. I do not believe, DT, in this theory that as long as you're in the news, it's good. I don't buy that. I think here's the bottom line. If you don't, as a league office, control the narrative, then and you don't communicate, you will leave a void. And that void will be filled by somebody else with speculation that leads to misinformation and a whole snowball effect. So fill the void yourself.
The whole CFL XFL thing has been a void, right? Like you and I have gone different directions on the CFL XFL, and both of us could be right because there's nothing to say either of us is wrong, right? And there's the problem with the void. There was something you said in there, Suits, that made me maybe find the reason why the CFL doesn't do this constant communication thing. When you said the word governors, I usually, when I think of things, I treat commissioners like they're autocrats, like they actually run everything, when that's not true, right? Randy Ambrosi is the guy who fronts for the 9 owners and 9 ownership groups that have dramatically different interests and needs and wants and desires, and some are louder than others and some are just willing to go along. I don't know if you can just pick the 7th of every month we're going to have a statement. I don't know if you can get all the governors on board with the same message once a month, if you know what I mean. That to me would seem that just occurred to me that could be a real problem. They have unity before they present, because what Montreal believes may not be what the Saskatchewan believes.
Yeah, and that goes back to making sure that everybody is united in the message that's coming out of the league office. So that's why in the past, but this is a different scenario. This is crisis management. This is people's lives. This is the thousands of jobs that are sort of hanging in the balance. I'm not just talking about players and coaches. I'm talking well beyond that. So this is different when you're looking at those general rules. Let's make sure every single governor or owner are all on the same page before the commissioner stands in front of the podium. That's normal times. And even then, I think we can take it up a big notch here when it comes to back to normal times and better communication with all things, in the CFL. And that includes XFL discussions. What are they talking about right now? Every day. Are they talking even right now? I mean, you don't have to break news every Monday in your press conference. You just have to be communicating, be out there, filling the void, saying, listen, we talked to the Alberta medical professionals. They're pretty good with the thing so far. Nothing new to report there, but we're getting closer. Mm-hmm. And here is July 1st possibility. Because players are going to have to hear DT. They're going to have to, take a look at, if we start and do half a season, can that make sense for me? And while that's sort of sad for a lot of, and we're seeing some of the retirements and things like that, it's sad to see some of our veterans go. It also opens opportunities for young guys to get a half a season of football when they may not have even got a look if they didn't get this opportunity. So it opens up the door for others, but we got to play. That's the bottom line. We got to play.
So the report from Arash Madani is that we're going to get a lot more clarity on April 19th. So a week today. And as he said with us earlier, they may move it by a day because they don't like people breaking their system. But whatever it might be, it sounds like next week we're going to get more clarity on what's to happen, which is what fans have been clamoring for, which the players have been clamoring for. And it's likely at that point they announce a delay. As you look at the CFL season and you look at what things look like for you in BC, what things look like for us now vaccinating 50-year-olds in Saskatchewan, what are the possible season lengths? When are the possible start dates in your mind? And I can't let you Ambrosi and say everything's on the table, but would you be willing to accept 9 games that starts what's that, second week of August? Let's put together a season that could actually work with COVID times.
Well, based on sort of unofficial medical information, and that's just me watching the news every night and yelling at the TV. But aside from that, when you look at the sort of the timeline that we have, and there'll probably be bumps in the road as we continue to go here, but I just registered today for my vaccination, by the way, which I'm real excited about here in Vancouver. So I'm going to be getting that relatively quickly, maybe in the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
In my age group. But the reason being is to say that we're getting down there between 50 and 60, and then it's going to be 45. I think midweek you can register next week in Vancouver from 45 to 50. So you know, it's, again, don't hold me to those numbers if you're listening online or anything, because it's unofficial. But if you're looking at that timing, here's what I would say for if you're standing in front of the podium as the commissioner of this league, you say, we have a few scenarios. Our June kickoff time will be postponed. We can't get to that because we can't get guys in time because the timeline has been put back a little bit with vaccinations.
Mm-hmm.
We can look at playing 3 games without fans and a July 1st start. That's plan A. You don't hold anybody to the exact date, but it's plan A to go July 1st, Canada Day. That's when we're going to kick it off. Plan B is the first weekend in August. Plan C is September. All 3 of those plans have a different number of games. We've worked out the economics on it. We've worked out how we can tie in 50-50 virtually, make some income there, some TV income and advertising there, all of those plans. You lay them on the table, you say, there's A, B, and C. Now, none of it is written in ink yet because medical has to clear us. But we're playing in one of those scenarios as soon as they say, go, you're ready to go. We're bringing players in.
Yeah, and then, I wonder because we hear stories. I mean, we hear 3 teams didn't want to play last year, and one of those teams really doesn't want to play this year. And how do they deal with that? There's so much going up.
DT, let me. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to mention that because that's a good point, and I've heard it said a couple of times and read it on Twitter a couple of times that a team doesn't want to play and doesn't have any interest in it. Bill Manning in March for the Argos, representing the Argos, basically said that, he is confident that we will play football. He said, I really am. It was a radio interview. We are confident that we're going to play football this year. And that was a quote. So from the presidents, from the owners, Montreal did a very similar thing about a month ago, their owners. So from them, we're hearing that we're playing. What we need is the communication from the league office in pulling that all together. Even if everyone's not completely on the same page, in crisis management, pull it together and let people know that it's got to be flexible. You got to be ready to pivot, Ross. And then,
that soundbite for the future. We need that one.
Yeah, we need that.
Writing the note down. Yeah, need to be ready for multiple things. It just I presume the CFL is. I'm just strictly guessing. I assume the CFL is because these aren't dumb people that run our great league. They're just not telling us that they're exactly what they are all prepared for, and that causes problems for players. That causes problems for fans. Connie in Cooks Creek on the text line is irate and is just about ready to punt on this whole thing. Hopefully, more clarity does come next week. 5:47. We're going to go to break. On the other side, Suits and I will discuss with the CFL in communication with the federal government. What's the CFL's case to get our tax dollars to keep things going? We'll try to spitball some ideas when we return on the SportsCage. We continue with Glenn Suitor and fine tailored Suits. Suits, how about you play the role of the CFL and I'll play the role of a politician, which it makes me feel dirty. What would be the CFL's case to secure federal funding? How would you want to pitch it to the federal government?
Well, I'd hire Derek Taylor to get some stats done for me and some numbers. I need to crunch some numbers because there's really 4 elements to this. There's jobs. That's number 1 and most important. There's the game, the ecosystem of the game, and restarting the economy. That's a third one. And then there's a heritage element. So basically, let's start with the most important, and that is the return of jobs. So, what we need to do is be presenting exactly how many jobs are directly and indirectly involved with the Canadian Football League when a game happens or when games happen on the weekend. And once you have that number, and I guarantee it'll be thousands probably, across the country over a season, You can then present it from Canadian jobs and getting those jobs and those people back to work, whether that be from stadium staff and all of it. Even if there's no fans there, you still have to have people come in. You have to have, there's lots of jobs that are on the line here. That's one. You look at those numbers and then you stretch them over 5 years, and what that has done to the economy when there are games being played in these stadiums across the country. And you get those numbers and ready to tell and talk to the government about bringing back as many of those jobs as you can, driving local business around the stadiums on game day. Again, another real important element to be selling, that we can be, as a league, part of the restart of the economics in your city. So you can be talking about businesses, local businesses that are working with protocols, but getting people back in restaurants on game day, in pubs, along with protocols, of course. But this is going to help kickstart it. And then, the heritage and the ecosystem of it all speaks for itself. But yeah, that's what I'd be presenting.
Yeah, the heritage part, we've had the CFL since 1958, and we've given out the Grey Cup every year except the pandemic, and we're set to give out 108 in Hamilton this year. That'll play with some folks, but I find when I get out of my sports bubble, I realize, oh yeah, there are people who don't like sports, and I'm fascinated by them, because how do you not love sports? But they just don't care. The thing about jobs, I think you're right on, and focus on the fact that, hey, these are Canadian jobs, and sure, we see the Cody Fajardos and the Shaq Evans on the field, but there are so many people behind that make that even possible. And then, oh, by the way, there's 33,000 people that go to see the game, and man, wouldn't it be great in their lives?
Well, and the economics of that,
exactly. Your point about the ripple effects outside of one game in Regina brings in X million dollars to other businesses.
And listen, some politicians here have an opportunity. They really do. And I'm talking about the local politicians, the provincial politicians have a job here to be part of this presentation. The Players Association, the league office, and the local politicians that have an opportunity here to take thousands and thousands of CFL football fans, Canadian football fans in our country. And if you want to get a vote from them, this is where you step up and say, hey, this would be great to bring it back to our community. And it also gives the government a chance to make these owners commit in the Canadian Football League. Are you going to be around for 5 to 10 to 15 years, for another 100 years? Because we want to invest in this Canadian tradition as long as we know that to be true. The Grey Cup alone generates $80 million to $100 million of economic growth in the city when you host it. Hamilton's got that sitting right off the tee right now, if we can get a season done and get to that championship.
I said this way back when, but as much as he is not particularly liked, I said understatingly, in this part of the country, could you imagine if Justin Trudeau could run on a platform of, oh, by the way, my government saved the CFL? That would be, well, I don't know what world that would be in, but as a political operative move, I would absolutely advise that. Oh, hey, the West absolutely loathes you. What if you save the football league they dearly love? About 60 seconds, Suits.
Yeah, what if John Horgan here in Vancouver says, I'm calling Trudeau and I'm saying, let's get going. Let's get this league back and playing. One quick note on the sort of indirect jobs that I just want to throw this out there because I think it's important.
Got about 30 seconds. We got a hard time.
Sure. Yeah. TV. I talked to an executive at TSN recently, and he said that we're also waiting. Programming is possible coming up if we can get the countdown. And also there is a lineup of sponsors that want to be part of a CFL return to play. Good. A lineup of sponsors sitting ready to go. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Suits, thank you, my friend.
Thanks, DT.